Hi, everyone. We're out here at the river, and it's awful beautiful, isn't it? Welcome down. For the first time, we've been able to get to the trail so far, at least this year. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get right into it. How about that? A quick visual descriptor. I have long brown hair, glasses, black coat, coffee mug in hand. Right behind me is the river. We are finally here after way too long. And it has been way too long, hasn't it? Since fall of last year. So absolutely wonderful to be here. So glad everyone's here today. Now, get yourself a cup of coffee, tea, whatever it may be, whatever gets your day going. I am a coffee person myself, so I have my coffee in hand. We have some people joining us from LinkedIn. I'm coming to you right now through Restream, an absolutely wonderful software. It makes live streaming so much easier for so many different streamers. So I'm currently on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, coming live here from my river uh, in the Great North. Foliage is finally coming back. Buds are finally coming back. We're getting to the point where I'm not necessarily worried it's going to snow again. I think we're going to be okay. I don't think the snow is going to come back for some months. Here's the hoping. Sometimes it does come back. It occasionally comes back after Mother's Day, not super often, but it happens. But morning to everyone. Oh my goodness, this is an absolutely beautiful sight. So if you're joining by audio, we are finally back down by the river. I've got all these wonderful big river rocks around me. The sun is hitting the water itself, and you can actually see like the canopy for this tree, or I'm describing it so you can't, but the canopy for this tree is finally coming back, and the leaves are already so much that it's nearly touching the water over here. So it's just amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. This is where you really need to have coffee. But it's still early enough in the season that this isn't all overgrown yet because, in a few more weeks, a lot of this is actually going to end up overgrown with river plants. All right, enough of all that. Creativity is something that I talk about very often. It's a big deal here. It's a big deal for me, and it's a big deal for so many other various creators. I mean, obviously it's right there, creator creativity. But we don't need to pin it down to just one type of creativity because we have authors and writers and live streamers and video makers and photographers and painters and all these other amazing people online on all these different platforms doing amazing stuff. But we need to be able to get in touch with our creativity. We need to be able to connect with that thing inside us that churns and moves and produces these amazing thoughts we have. Now, there's tons and tons of ways to incite creativity, to kind of conjure it into being in ourselves. And of course, you can work on your creative skills, but one of the great things about creativity is it's kind of um, built into you already. Now, I did talk recently about how creativity doesn't have to be innate, something you're born with. You can learn it, but there are certain things that you do when you're a kid that are just innate kind of creativity. A lot of us, I'm sure, have done these things. whether it's building with Lego or Play-Doh or all those kinds of things, or coloring, make a picture for our class and school, or our parents or whatnot, goes up on the refrigerator. And one of the things that you can actually do to get in touch with your creativity is actually return to basics. By this, I mean go back to the simple, the fundamental aspects of our creative thinking. When we become adults, there's a lot of pull to get us away from what could be conceived of as childlike activities, things that are immature. But let's put this out right now. Maturity and immaturity is an artificial labeling and quantifying of activities that we participate in. What some people might actually have as a career, other people will look at and be like, "Oh, that's not a real job. That's just a hobby," and they won't look at it as a mature skill set. And that's a good way to put it into perspective. Just a just a few years ago, really, the idea of someone being a YouTube video maker, someone who just makes videos on YouTube, we wouldn't have thought of that as a career. Oh, that's just someone making videos in their bedroom or wherever they may be. But now it's a career, and it became a career, and people made serious money doing it. But there's a view of things like that as not being a mature, fully formed thing to do. And equally, when it comes to creativity, there's a lot of things that people might look at and think that's not necessarily, a mature, deep concept. But let me stop you right there. Let me stop myself right there and say there are some basic fundamentals that you could do to get in touch with your creativity. Thing number one, do you have Silly Putty? Have you played with Silly Putty? Do you remember ever doing this in your life? Now, obviously, Silly Putty is not the only thing you can do here, but these kind of toys of innocence that can be shaped and molded in so many different ways. We're going back to Play-Doh. We're going back to Silly Putty. We're going back to clay or sculpting. Tactile fun, these physical activities that require us to get our hands into something and then just twist it and contort it and then make something. Now, Silly Putty is a wonderful example because Silly Putty has the ability to actually just replicate things like newspapers. Do people even read newspapers anymore? I don't know. But you take the Silly Putty, you stick it on the paper, you pull it off, and now all of a sudden you have a recreation. You have a carbon copy of whatever it was on. And that's pretty awesome. That line of thinking when we're young, it allows us to have a whole lot of fun with something really simple. And that simple fun is actually what we need to get in touch with. That is a wonderful comment, by the way. I like soil. Oh, yes, soil. Getting our hands into the dirt. Another thing we do when we're younger. This is actually another creative basic. It's learning about the world. It's interacting with what's right there around us. And you can't go wrong getting in the dirt, picking flowers, wandering through the woods, digging a hole in your back lawn, gardening. And it starts off with that simple concept when we're younger, just getting our hands in the dirt. And then as we quote unquote mature, well, then what we're doing matures. But truthfully, that basic concept of just getting your hands in the dirt, digging a hole, finding a worm, that's creativity at its most elemental basic. And there's a lot of other things like that too. Oh my goodness, we have so many great comments, making castles, climbing trees. Oh, yes. So, whoo, just slipped on a rock. Just a little. Good coffee. So, engage yourself in a physical basic of creativity. That's really what I want to say to you today. Getting in touch with our creativity often means going backwards, going to the beginning, when our mind was still processing everything around us. And when we get older, we are discouraged from doing things like this. Not everybody, not all the time, not everywhere. But there is, of course, a discouragement in regards to being what could be conceived of as childish. But I think that childishness, that childlike state, is truly an open and accepting and investigative and aware state. Doing these wonderful physical activities, climbing a tree, walking down a trail, getting your feet in the water at a beach, digging a hole in the ground, playing with silly putty, trying to figure out how to put a whole collection of Lego together. These simple acts actually can help you get back in touch with your creativity. Now, one of the fun things about being a kid, when you are a kid, that you really recognize more later on, is you kind of didn't care if you looked absurd or silly. There was a lot less perception when we were really young, for a lot of us, not necessarily everyone, for a lot of us, that, we didn't think about, do I seem ridiculous doing this? Does this make sense? That's another thing you need to get back in touch with. The lack of consideration about whether or not what you're doing is practical, how people might perceive you because of it, and what use it will have. Get into the dirt because you want to get into the dirt. Play with dominoes in all the wrong ways. Get a stress ball. Squeeze it till it pops. Find a stick on the side of a nature trail or in your backyard and turn it into a walking stick. Excalibur. Suddenly you can fly with that stick. You can twirl the clouds with your imagination. You can shape the world with your mind. Shed for even a little bit that mature brain that questions why you're doing something, and then engage with your basic inner element, your curiosity, your fun, and ask me, what could this be? What could I do with it? That is actually going to be my challenge for you, each and every one of you. Um, some point in the near future, get in touch with your open mind, your creative spirit, that tactical nature, the tactile nature of childhood, and do something not because it's practical, but because it's fun. And see how quickly that wonder can carry over into what you do day to day. Hmm. Thank you so much for being here today. Go get yourself an extra cuppa. You deserve one. Thank you for joining me at the river. Now, before I get going, just thank you for all the comments and everything. It's awesome. Before I get going today, you're going to see a link somewhere nearby where you can go to my digital gallery and you can check out my paintings, my new art prints. I have 8 new art prints. Actually, a couple more are going to be coming very soon. And support the arts. You deserve something fun. And when you support an artist, you actually, especially an indie artist, you are also supporting a large number of other indie artists, small businesses, creators, creatives, and just a lot of amazing people. I'm not going to keep you much longer, though. The river's been beautiful, and you've all been amazing. That's some good coffee. All right, everybody. I am going to be getting out of here. Thank you for joining me at the river. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye, everybody.